Welcome to the SQL tutorial. This is the video number 5 in the series SQL tutorial. In the last lecture we had seen the create and alter commands using which we could create the database and tables into the DBMS, and we have also seen how we can add the constraints into the table and at the time of creating the table, and after once we have created the table how we can add those constraints. We had also seen how we can use the alter command to alter the constraints and even to alter the columns into the table. Today we will see the select clause of the SQL, using which we can fetch the data we have inserted into our table. So let's see how we can fetch the data from a table. Just to fetch the data we need to use the SQL select clause. So we will use the SQL select statement. It is used to select data from the table of a database. So it can select the data from a single table or from multiple tables also. It can select the all data from a table or can also select the conditioned data. So we can also apply the conditioned onto the selection. The condition is applied using the where clause. So the simple syntax of the select is we can simply write select, and then we need to mention the column names of the table, and then from we use the from clause, and then the table name. From the table we want to fetch the data. Here we can also use a wildcard, which is known as asterisk, that can replace if you want to fetch all the columns of a table. So instead of writing the names of all the columns, we can simply write the asterisk. So let's say if we have a table with 10 columns, so it's not advisable to write the names of all 10 columns into the select clause. We simply mention the asterisk that will signify that we want to fetch all the 10 columns from the table. So we'll simply write select asterisk from table name. So this is one example. And if you want to select some columns, not all, let's say from a table of 5 columns we want to fetch only 2 columns, then we need to mention the names of the columns into the select. So we here, let's say we have selected the last name and first name from the person table. So we need to write select last name comma first name from person. In the same way you can select any number of columns you would like to. The distinct clause helps us in eliminating the duplicate rows. Let's say if in this in the previous query we have fetched the first and last name, so it may be possible that in a same table there are multiple similar first names, and if you want to fetch only the unique values, we don't want duplicate values, we don't want repeated values, so we use distinct keyword. So let's say in this example the syntax has been given SQL distinct, then on which column we want to apply the distinct constraint. So from table name, so for example select distinct, then the name of the column, and then from person. So in this way distinct cities will be selected, so no city will be repeated. Where clause is used to apply the condition onto the selected data. Let's say if we want to select the people only from one city, let's say the city is sadness, so we'll apply the condition, or we can also apply the let's say we want to see the data only of the people who are greater than 25 years old, so in age. So we can also apply that onto the in the where clause. So let's say here is an example. We will write select asterisk from person, then we will write the where clause and the condition. So here the condition is applied onto the city column, and we want to fetch the data who belongs to the city sadness only. So city is equal to, in single quotes, sadness. So it is a varchar field, so we'll use single quotes. If this would have been an integer, let's say age, then we would have been written direct the value without single quotes. So this will fetch all the values from the person table which belong to city sadness only. We can use multiple operators with the where clause. Let's say what are these operators? Some logical operators like equal to, less than equal to, greater than equal to, not equal to. We have just used the equal to with the city. City is equal to sadness. So this will fetch all the data where the people belong to city sadness. And let's say if you want to fetch the data where the people do not belong to city sadness, then instead of equal to we would have used not equal to. So the next logical operator is not equal to. And then we can use greater than equal to, less than equal to, in if we have a list that we want to fetch the people from Lucknow, Delhi and Mumbai city only. So this is a list of 3 cities, so we can apply this in. And we want to fetch the data from the cities which are not in the list. That means we want to fetch the data from all the cities excluding Lucknow, Mumbai and Pune. Then we will make a list of Lucknow, Mumbai and Pune and we will keep it not in. So then between, let's say this can be applied on numerical data between the age 25 and 30. So you want to fetch the data of the people who are aged between 25 and 30 years. Not between, just the opposite case. Begins with pattern matching, contains some specific value, not contains, does not contain that specific value. Is null if the field is blank. Let's say you have registered some people but they have not given the address. So whenever the address block is blank, so we can use to fetch all the data of those people who have not recorded their addresses. So we'll use is null. The opposite of is null is not null. Like operator is used to match the pattern. Let's say if we want to fetch the data of the people whose first name begins with the S, so we'll use this like operator. And if you want to fetch the data whose name does not begin with a S, so we will use not like operator. To add more than one conditions, let's say we want to fetch the data of the people who are from some specific city, Lucknow, and whose age is greater than 35. So here we have more than one conditions. Now just to add more than one conditions, we use the operators and or operators. And operator is used whenever both the conditions are to be satisfied compulsory, and or operator is used when the either of the two needs to be satisfied. So here is example of the AND condition. We want to fetch the data from the person table where first name is some special value of the first name and also the last name. So once we know the first name and last name and we want to implement both the values, then we'll use AND condition. Similarly, if you want to fetch the people whose either first name matches or last name matches, then we will be using or as a keyword in between. We can also use both the and or. Depends on the number of conditions and relationships among these conditions. Next is the order by clause. The order by clause is used to see the result or fetch the result in some specific order. Let's say ascending order of the names, or descending order, or ascending order of age, ID. So we will be using the order by clause. So let's see how the order by clause is used. Just to use the order by clause, we will be using select number of columns, name of columns from table, then order by and column name. So the column by which we want to order the table. And we have two values for this, ASC and DESC. ASC will order the values into ascending order, and DSC obviously will order the values into the descending order. So you can see select asterisk from person, order by. Now we have ordered the table on the basis of last name. So by default it uses the ASC, ascending order, and if you want to specify descending order, then you will have to write DESC. So select asterisk from person, order by, last name, DESC. Let's see how the insertion can be done into a table. We have seen how we can create a table, we had seen how we can select the data from the table. So now let's see how we can insert the table. Data can be inserted with the help of insert into keyword statement or clause. Again, the data can be inserted in two ways. One, if we want to insert the data in all the columns, or second, we want to insert the data into some selected columns of a table, specified tables. So if you want to insert the data in all the columns, so the syntax is insert into table name and values. So we need to specify the values of all the columns in proper sequence. The order of the value we specify is matters a lot, and the data type also. So if in the table the first column is person ID, then here while inserting, the first value has to be the person ID value, and the data type also matches. So for example, here values, this is ID, the first name, last name, then the uh, address and age, and then city. So these are the values that we have specified. This is the way when we need to insert all the values to the table. And the second way, when we want to insert only in specific columns. So in that case, we need to mention those specific columns. So see, insert into table. Now with the table name within the brackets, we will mention those specific columns in which we want to insert the value. Here we want to insert the value only in these three specific columns: person ID, last name, and first name. So now values, we'll give only three values, and again the sequence of the column and the data type matters a lot. In this case, we can get some exceptions if we have not null values into the columns which we have not selected here. For example, if address is a not null value column, so we will not be allowed to execute this query because that will be SQL constraint. So we'll see that kind of SQL constraints into the advanced study. So that's it for the lecture. Further clauses we will study into the upcoming videos. Thank you.